but he didn't know how to continue either. That space between giving up and moving forward is where most people disappear. Not physically, mentally. They function. They exist, but they stop fighting for anything meaningful. He felt himself approaching that edge, and that scared him more than failure ever did. One night, after another long day that led nowhere, he sat alone in the dark. No music, no phone, no distraction, just him and the truth he had been avoiding. He realized something brutal. Life was not going to slow down for him. It was not going to explain itself. It was not going to reward his patience. And worst of all, no one was coming to change it for him. No savior, no perfect opportunity, no moment where everything suddenly made sense. The world was not broken. It was indifferent. And that indifference demanded a response. That night, something inside him cracked. Not completely, but enough to let something else in. Not hope, not motivation. Clarity, the kind of clarity that doesn't feel good, the kind that strips illusions away. He understood this. If he continued as he was, waiting for fairness, waiting for recognition, waiting for circumstances to improve, he would disappear. Slowly, quietly, without anyone noticing. And for the first time, that realization didn't make him sad. It made him still, very still. Because when the mind stops begging, it starts preparing. The stillness didn't leave him. It followed him into the next morning. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind. The kind that removes excuses from your mouth before you even try to speak them. He woke up without expectation, without hope, without complaint. That was new. Hope had always been there before, loud, demanding, fragile. Now it was gone, and in its absence, something harder took its place. Acceptance. Not acceptance of defeat, acceptance of reality. Reality didn't care about his effort, didn't care about fairness. Didn't care how long he had already suffered. Reality only responded to one thing. Pressure applied consistently. He understood something most people never allow themselves to see. Comfort was killing him, not instantly. Slowly, every time he waited to feel ready. Every time he chose rest over resistance. Every time he told himself, "Oh, tomorrow." Comfort wasn't evil. It was seductive. It spoke softly. It sounded reasonable. It explained failure in a way that protected his ego. You've already tried hard. You deserve a break. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Comfort didn't attack him. It lulled him. And that made it dangerous. That morning he did something small. He didn't negotiate with his mood. He moved. No motivation, no inspiration, just action. It felt wrong. His body resisted. His mind searched for reasons to stop. He ignored them. That was the moment Comfort realized it was losing control. The resistance was immediate. Pain surfaced fast. Fatigue came early. Doubt screamed louder than ever. You're forcing this. This isn't sustainable. You'll burn out. But he had already burned out once from hoping. This pain felt different. This pain was honest. He didn't enjoy it. He didn't romanticize it. He endured it. And when it was over, nothing magical happened. No surge of confidence, no sudden clarity, just silence. But the silence felt different. It wasn't empty. It was clean. Wasn't empty. It was clean. The next day, he did it again and again. Not because he believed in it, but because he had nothing left to believe in. Belief had failed him. Discipline hadn't yet. Progress was slow. Pain was constant. His body adapted faster than his mind. The mind fought back. It reminded him of past failures. Fike showed him images of quitting, brought up every reason this might be pointless. The mind will protect comfort at all costs, even if comfort is destroying you. He learned to hear the noise without obeying it, to feel the fear without feeding it, to let doubt speak and continue anyway. Days became structured, not productive in the traditional sense, relentless. He stripped his life down to essentials: sleep, work, training, silence. He removed distractions not because they were bad, but because they were loud. Noise weakens focus. Silence sharpens it. People around him noticed changes. Not success, but distance. He spoke less, explained nothing, reacted slower. Emotion stopped driving him. Principle took over. He stopped asking, "How do I feel?" and started asking, "What must be done?" Some days he failed. He missed sessions. He doubted himself. He felt old habits pulling at him. But something had changed. Failure no longer crushed him. It instructed him. Instead of quitting, he adjusted. Instead of spiraling, he returned to work. No drama, no self-pity, just correction. This is where most people misunderstand discipline. They think it's intensity. It's not. It's obedience. Obedience to a standard you don't negotiate with. Obedience when tired. Obedience when bored. Obedience when nothing seems to be working. Slowly, the discomfort threshold moved. What once felt unbearable became routine. What once required willpower became habit. And what once felt impossible became expected. He realized something unsettling. The pain hadn't disappeared. He had simply grown larger than it. The mind that once begged for relief now demanded challenge. Comfort tried to return, disguised as reward. You've earned rest. You've changed enough. You can relax now, but he recognized the voice. It was the same one that almost ended him. So he didn't argue with it. He ignored it. There was no excitement in this phase. No highs, no celebration, just work, cold, unemotional, precise. He wasn't building motivation. He was building capacity. The capacity to endure, to focus, to stay present when everything inside him wanted escape. Weeks passed, then months. Results appeared quietly, not externally at first, internally. He noticed calm where anxiety used to live. Stillness where chaos once ruled. Confidence without arrogance. Not the loud confidence that needs validation. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't speak until necessary. The kind that knows what it can survive. He hadn't become happy. He had become stable. And stability, he learned, is more powerful than motivation. Because motivation comes and goes, stability stays. By the time he realized it, the person he used to be couldn't survive his current life. Comfort had died, not violently, but completely, and in its place stood something else. Something sharper, something disciplined, something dangerous. The foundation was set. The mind was no longer fragile. It was being forged. Something strange happens when pressure lasts long enough. It stops feeling temporary. It stops feeling like a phase. It becomes familiar. And familiarity changes the relationship. What once felt like an attack now felt like environment. He no longer waited for easier days. He stopped expecting relief. Hard days were no longer interruptions. They were default. This is where the mind either collapses or transforms. His had crossed that point quietly. He noticed it one morning without celebration. There was no inner debate anymore. No conversation about whether he should do the work. No emotional preparation. No resistance. He simply moved. The body followed. Pain was present, but irrelevant. It existed in the background, like weather. You don't argue with the rain. You move through it. That's what pressure had become. Background noise. He realized fear was still there. But it had changed too. It was no longer loud, no longer dramatic. Fear had become informational, a signal. Not a command. It told him where growth was, where weakness still lived, where he needed to go next. Most people run from fear. He learned to walk toward it. Not recklessly, deliberately. Fear lost its power when it stopped being avoided. Something else faded as well, the need to be understood. He no longer cared if people misjudged him, if they thought he was extreme, if they didn't see the effort behind the silence. Explanation is for those who seek permission. He no longer did. His life became narrow, focused, brutally simple. Wake, work, train, reflect, repeat. No chaos, no emotional excess. Clarity replaced noise, and with clarity came a dangerous realization. Most suffering isn't caused by pain. It's caused by resistance to pain. Once resistance dies, pain loses its leverage. He wasn't numb. He felt everything. But he no longer reacted. Reaction had been replaced by response. That shift changed everything. Setbacks no longer felt personal. Failure no longer damaged identity. Criticism no longer pierced. Everything became data, useful or irrelevant. Nothing more. The world began to feel slower, not because it had changed, but because he no longer rushed internally. Urgency disappeared. Desperation vanished. He was no longer trying to prove anything. That alone separated him from most people. Power doesn't announce itself. It settles. People around him felt it before they understood it. They noticed the calm, the lack of explanation, the absence of emotional swings. He didn't dominate rooms. He anchored them, and that made people uncomfortable because calm exposes chaos. Some admired it. Some resented it. Some tried to provoke it. None succeeded. He had already survived worse than opinions. Internally, something locked into place. A point of no return. He knew, with certainty, that the version of himself who used to hesitate was gone. Not resting, not hiding. Gone. That version couldn't survive this life. The cost of this transformation was high. He sacrificed comfort. He sacrificed ease. He sacrificed relationships that required him to stay small. But what he gained could not be taken. Self-trust, the rarest form, not confidence based on success. Confidence based on survival. He trusted himself because he had seen what he could endure, and endurance changes the hierarchy of fear. Once you've faced prolonged discomfort, short-term pain loses meaning. Once you've been alone with your thoughts, external noise loses authority. Once you've built discipline in silence, applause becomes unnecessary. This is where the mind becomes dangerous. Not loud dangerous, not aggressive dangerous, silent dangerous. The kind that doesn't seek conflict but doesn't avoid it either. The kind that doesn't threaten because it doesn't need to. He wasn't chasing greatness. He was becoming inevitable, and inevitability doesn't rush. It waits. He understood now. Most people spend their lives trying to feel strong. He spent his becoming unbreakable. Pressure had stopped shaping him. It had merged with him. This was no longer training. This was identity, and identities don't collapse under stress. They reveal themselves. The world eventually responds. Not immediately, not fairly, but inevitably. It responds when consistency outlives doubt, when discipline outlasts distraction, when silence becomes heavier than noise. He didn't notice the shift at first because he wasn't looking for it. He wasn't chasing recognition anymore. He wasn't measuring progress by applause. He wasn't scanning the horizon for validation. He was too busy living inside his standards. But the world notices standards. It always does. Opportunities didn't arrive dramatically. They appeared quietly. A door opened without explanation. A conversation changed tone. A presence was acknowledged without being announced. People who once overlooked him now paused when he spoke. People who once doubted him now listened carefully. Not because he demanded respect, because he carried it. There was no celebration inside him, no ego, just awareness. He understood something crucial. External success is not proof of strength. It's a side effect of internal order. And internal order had already been achieved. Pressure still existed. Challenges still came, but they no longer threatened him. They tested the structure, and the structure held. He moved through conflict without urgency, through uncertainty without panic, through resistance without reaction. The calm remained. That calm was misunderstood by many. Some thought he didn't care. Some thought he lacked emotion. Some thought he had become cold. They were wrong. He felt deeply. But he no longer leaked emotion into the world. He had learned where power belongs, inside. He didn't speak about his struggles, not because he denied them, but because they no longer defined him. He had already faced himself in places no one else had seen. That kind of confrontation changes a person permanently. He trusted his decisions because they were no longer driven by fear. Fear still appeared, but it had lost authority. It could advise. It could not command. That distinction separated him from the crowd. Most people negotiate with their limits. He observed his, and then exceeded them quietly. The world tried again to distract him. Comfort returned wearing new clothes. Success whispered, "You've earned rest." Praise suggested, "You can relax now." He smiled internally. He recognized the trap. Comfort was not the enemy anymore, but it was still a test. He didn't reject rest. He controlled it. He didn't reject pleasure. He placed boundaries around it. Discipline was no longer punishment. It was protection. Protection of clarity. Protection of focus. Protection of the man he had become. He understood now. An unbreakable mind is not built in intensity. It's built in restraint, in choosing long-term strength over short-term relief, in choosing silence over explanation, in choosing standards over moods. People often asked him what changed. He never answered directly. Go. Because the truth wouldn't satisfy them. The truth was simple but uncomfortable. He stopped expecting life to be kind and started expecting himself to be strong. That expectation reshaped everything. His presence became steady. His decisions became clean. His direction became clear. He no longer feared losing because he knew how to rebuild. He no longer feared isolation because he had survived it. He no longer feared pain because pain had already done its worst and failed. What remained was something rare, a mind that does not flinch, a mind that does not beg, a mind that does not break. He didn't need to dominate the world. He had already conquered the only place that mattered. And if you are listening to this, if you are tired, if you are frustrated, If you feel like life has taken more than it has given, understand this: you are not behind. You are being prepared. Every silent struggle, every lonely night, every moment you chose to continue without applause, it is shaping you. But only if you refuse to quit, only if you stop negotiating with weakness, only if you accept the cost, because strength is expensive. And most people are not willing to pay. But if you continue when it's boring, if you endure when it's painful, if you stay disciplined when no one is watching, then one day, quietly, you will realize something powerful. Nothing can break you anymore, not because life became easier, but because you became unbreakable.